So I get to share what I think is actually some of the most contagious and energizing work that Enterprise has been doing since we launched Green Communities. So really excited to share with you what that is. And just to keep you on your toes, Bill said to shake it up a little bit, there will be a quiz. And I'm not kidding. Foamy's got him. So, not to scare you all, but I'm going to share, or I guess really, share the tools that we've created. I think this is the most exciting part of our work because it actually brings us back to Enterprise's core mission, which is really about people. I think if you asked just about anybody working at Enterprise, they would let you know that we're in the people business, that we're really trying to find solutions to really help the most vulnerable populations. And so addressing resident engagement actually allows us to start talking about people again. For years, I would go around getting people interested in our Green Communities initiative, and I swear I had PowerPoints that had no people in it, and now we get to actually talk about people. And I think with the exception of one person that I work with who won't agree with me that we're in the people business, she actually says she's in the building business, but I'm not willing to believe her quite yet. So anyway, I'm going to answer a little bit of the question, sort of the because, we're doing this because, and then just a few slides, because this could take up a whole hour on just a few things of what we're learning, and then get into the resident engagement tools that really I think is the basis for the whole presentation. So, I think you all know Enterprise. By now, we are a national affordable housing intermediary, and the blue circles are really where we have what we call our impact markets, where we're doing most of our work, but we do work nationally, providing the capital and innovating the solutions and working to sustain that work through policy advocacy to really help low-income people move up and out of poverty by providing affordable housing and working to strengthen communities. And this is where we work. I got to tell my group earlier some of the trials and tribulations of working at Enterprise leading our green initiative. This is where half of the company, 250 people, come to work every day in Columbia, Maryland. It's an 8-story office building. That will actually get demolished within the next 2 to 3 years. So there's hope. Oh, it's on some type of timer. Uh-oh. And this is the team. This is the Green Communities team. We try to have fun and bring humor into what we do. But this, we had, I think, the great fortune of being founded by Jim Rouse, such a visionary. And we have some of his quotes to fall back on, and this is one of my favorites. When you face a problem, don't fight it, look beyond it. Figure out what would be the situation. What would the situation be if everything worked? What would it be like if this problem did not exist? Find that solution, then figure out how to get there. And so that's really how we've been approaching green communities. We know the solution is green measures that we can integrate and bring into the affordable housing sector to provide great health and economic and environmental benefits. And we've been spending the last 6 years figuring out the solution. How do you get there? And we're by no means done with that yet. So just real quickly, I like to show some of these slides of buildings, even though we're going to talk about people, just so you get a sense that any affordable housing can really benefit from green. And when I say green, I'm actually talking about a holistic approach, meeting the Enterprise's Green Communities criteria, whether it's new construction by some of the sort of world-renowned architects, or it's adaptive reuse of existing buildings and infill in tight situations in urban areas, or just sort of new construction townhomes, larger multifamily projects. What we've come to learn over the last 6 years is that there's no excuse. Any affordable housing can be green. So we have to make all of it green so that all low-income households can benefit. And we're committed to doing that internally, meaning everything that Enterprise invests in will be green by 2013. And we're working on a call to action to make sure that all affordable housing both new and existing, is green within this decade. So rural, as well as some historic buildings. So this is a little transition, just a minute video. Maybe some of you have seen this. Just to sort of bring us back to what we're talking about today in terms of buildings and their use of energy and the impact on the environment. Maybe some of you have seen this.
Each one of these balloons represents 50 grams of greenhouse gas. You can't see it, but you produce greenhouse gas every time you use energy. The average home produces over 200,000 balloons every year. Save energy, and you'll also save money and reduce your impact on climate change. You have the power to make a difference. Authorised by the Victorian Government, Melbourne.
Has everybody seen that already? Yeah, I mean, part of this, I think, I was talking to someone earlier, you know, we just need to sort of have a campaign about this. You know, I'm struck by a number of things lately, and as I mentioned, my personal sort of plan of action had more to do with just using every opportunity to talk about the situation we're in, not to be gloomy, but I think we have a very hopeful solution, but the trends aren't moving in the right direction. So when we launched Green Communities, I had sort of 3 slides I would use every time to just sort of say why we were doing this. But the trends are getting worse. So low-income households spend, you know, 4 times more than moderate-income households on energy, and they're spending about as a country, we're spending about $17 billion for vampire energy, which is just wasteful. And so these things in my head are starting to add up, and we know that they can be different. This is a woman who's benefiting from a solar installation program that we're running in LA. And the great thing was she actually got her solar installed in her house and had a couple of her utility bills and called our local office in LA up and was really concerned and wanted to know what was wrong with her utility bill. You know, it's only $1.50. So she's been paying $50 a month, and now it's $1.50. So there are, you know, there's these great solutions that people can benefit from, and you know, I know, you know, this is no secret to all of you in the room, but the housing plus the transportation costs are just getting more and more burdensome. You know, households are spending 50 to 70% of their income now for housing and transportation. And when you think about sort of the rising housing costs and then the rising gasoline costs, so if you're already, you know, spending a lot because you're placed outside of an existing community to get to and from where you need to be, and as gasoline prices increase, those burdens just really add up, particularly for very low-income households who then have to really forego meals, forego preventative medical care, you know, you name it, the list goes on. And I just get more and more agitated about the waste because as resources federally, on the state and local level, start to shrink for funds that we can use towards affordable housing, you know, you think of all the time that we spend, Americans do, in congestion. That's, I think, what is it, $17 billion that we spend just wasted sitting in our cars at idles because of congestion, because we're not smartly living in the right locations. And this, I heard this earlier this year at an American Planning Association conference that, you know, your zip code determines, to some degree, you can look at someone's zip code and know how long they're going to live, which I just think is appalling. And, you know, millions of Americans, millions of our sort of our lowest income earning Americans are living in places that have life expectancies of developing countries. And this, Dennis, I think, was the first one to turn me on to these slides from the CDC in 2004. And they were sort of different shades of blue. And now the obesity rates in this country are making us create whole new shades of orange. And only Colorado and DC have obesity rates that are less than 20%. And there's a cost to that. We're spending $147 billion every year in this country on healthcare costs related to obesity. But again, I'm not being gloomy and doomy for no reason. There's solutions. There's great solutions. We've talked about some of them already in New York with the active, healthy design guidelines. And this campaign, Burn Calories, Not Electricity. You call 311. You get a sign. You can put it up. 13,000 of these signs were made in this campaign. And after 9 months, there was a decrease and an increase, in the stairs that were being walked up. And so, again, what we're learning too is just the green benefits that can be channeled towards health improvement. So this is a project in Worthington, Minnesota. It's 60 units of affordable housing that we help to preserve. And we did a 3-year study on the residents living before and after the renovations took place. And it was pretty astounding, some of the health improvements, mostly to the seniors and the children living in this property. I think kids spend, 80% of their time indoors? Put a playground, and all of a sudden they're outside 60% of the time. This isn't rocket science. It's not even expensive. And we can make dramatic improvements in people's health. And this is a woman, Abongo Jula, who lived in Viking Terrace before the improvements and had to drive her daughter once a month, an hour away to get her asthma medication, and then an hour back home every month. And within 6 months of living in Viking Terrace once it was renovated, no more. And these are some of the anecdotes that we've already heard. And with climate change, too, I think we're seeing these longer seasons of pollen and sort of higher productions of pollen from allergenic plants. And again, these are costs. These are public health costs. We spent $18 billion on asthma in this country. And again, Nikki lived in Portland, Oregon, and found a house that her husband and her kids, Miriam and Ram, could afford in Portland, but it was damp. Her children ended up suffering from asthma over time living in that apartment, but they moved in to Olson Woods and very quickly experienced significant health improvements. And we've seen this, some of you have probably seen this study that we talk about from High Point in Seattle, where the homes were built to a Breathe Easy standard. The kids had asthma. They were screened to be kids with asthma, and then they moved into these Breathe Easy homes. And these are some of the results from going sort of in a 2-week period from having 7.6 days without symptoms to having 12.4 days without symptoms. And just, the other benefits to the caregiver and the reductions in costs as a result of not having going to the emergency room. So anyway, this all adds up, sort of the costs, the waste, really, because we know that we can be developing and strengthening communities in a different way rather than how we currently are conventionally. And this adds up, $226 billion from the healthcare costs of obesity, the healthcare costs for asthma, the vampire energy, the congestion, and the waste. And I'd like to see that money go, to affordable housing. We have a $6.8 million gap in rental housing that we need in this country to be affordable for low and very low income households. But we also, if we think about the 150 million people that we're going to have in the next few decades, and we want them to be living in cities, what if we took $220 billion and invested back in infrastructure so that 1,200 people aren't dying every day from tap water? So there are great, hopeful solutions that you're all involved with, for sure. And again, this is High Point in Seattle, an amazing redevelopment of public housing where they had 2,100 people before, using that much energy, and then we're almost doubled the amount of people living in the same neighborhood, but lowered the demand of electricity. So it can be done, it's being done. And at the same time, engaging people in how we're developing, having them demand healthier, greener places to live. In San Francisco, we're doing this through the Hope SF Academy, where the residents are fully engaged. They're learning about the development process, and they're fully part of how their community is being redeveloped. I think I'm going to skip that. But we just get used to some of the conditions, the homelessness along Skid Row in LA, and here we have the Skid Row housing providing just some elegant solutions, and there's a Rose Fellow who's working with Skid Row, and this, again, sort of daylighting the entrance, making it a place you want to be, a place that you could actually consider sort of aspiring to more and hoping and dreaming about your future, and using the staircase because it's daylit. And there's services on the ground floor where you can go and get what you need. And you just have a sense of dignity again. And these are places then where people want to live. And you can build a sense of community when people aren't always trying to look for something better, a safer place, a healthier place, but when they feel grounded, and this is their home, and they can invest and feel like they're worth it. And I think it's just astounding. 1 in 4, so pick, a kid, and they're living in poverty. So these are some of the trends we're facing. But again, not to get down. I think there's a lot of hope in the work that we're all doing to change our behavior, change our way of developing. And sometimes we don't want to talk about climate change because it sounds so far removed. But it has by addressing it head on, we can make it work. We can find new revenue streams to bring into affordable housing development and improve the lives of low-income people and make great lives, as she said at the end there. So thanks for sitting through that, and thanks, Jonathan, for contributing through the fund, and Silver Gardens, obviously a terrific project, and M Station as well by Foundation Communities. So now we get to, yeah, sure.
So our firm is carbon neutral because we measure our carbon impact of driving, those people take the subway, everything, and then we make an annual contribution to the Enterprise Carbon Offset Fund. And I encourage all of you, if you want to make your company carbon neutral, it's a great way to do it, because instead of buying trees in Bolivia or something, you are you're getting a double whammy if you're helping the creation of affordable housing. And then if you happen to be an affordable housing developer, you can go back to them and ask for the money for your projects.
And we didn't put his money back in his project, by the way. Yeah, Rob. $20.
Well, it's cheap. How did you set that price?
We thought it was the most we could get out of the market.
The Chicago Climate Exchange is very jealous.
Yeah.
It's $4
If that, yeah.
So that's great.
It should be $300 at least.
So Dan, how much do you invest in a project? So you're collecting $20 a ton.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing we do, not only do we pay $20, but we buy it for 10 years. So I think $16,000 to Silver Gardens. It just depends. M Station may have been about that. No, actually it was quite a bit more. M Station went pretty deep. So it just depends how much above and beyond the Enterprise's Green Communities energy efficiency criteria you can go, because that's what we say is additional. And then we can only buy what you wouldn't have done anyway. And so that depends a lot on the purchase price at the end. But so we buy it for 10 years, and we have to monitor and verify that those emissions are real, that they're happening. We are managing it as a fund, but that gets back to, I think, where we are in this room and the conversation before about data and the importance of it, and we're struggling hard. Miho knows, we're spending a lot of time trying to figure out the data collection piece and the monitoring and verification. And at the end of the day, it really does matter how the residents are using their home. And that gets us to our little green mascot, which I think is absolutely hilarious, but it seems to be resonating, and people are actually using it. So I'm going to spend the remainder of our time walking you through these resident engagement tools and this is where the quiz will come in. So again, you know, it's always been part of our approach, and it certainly wasn't our idea. We spent a lot of time before launching the Green Communities Initiative to listen, and we were told that operations and maintenance is critical. You have to build that into the criteria. And so we've always had measures in the criteria that were mandatory, related to operations and maintenance. But in the beginning years, obviously, all we said was you have to supply an operations and maintenance manual for the owner, and as well one for the resident. And so those of you who came in early to the program knew you had to create this from scratch. Well, now we have a host of manuals. Eden Housing is using some of the templates. We have them online. They're ready for your use. So we're learning more about the operations and maintenance piece, but who, not me, wants to sit down and read a manual about how I'm supposed to live in my home? I'm a homeowner, and I still haven't gone through my first homeowner's manual, that I was given. So we can't expect that from anyone else, and that got us thinking, how can we bring this to life? How do we make this real? How do we actually engage residents? So we knew it wasn't going to be us coming up with something, but the residents needed to be engaged to tell us, how do you learn? What do you want to learn? What does this mean for you? And so on Earth Day, we named 6 grantees to help us pilot these new resident engagement tools that we created. Eden Housing is one of them, as are the Farm Worker Housing Development Corps in Woodburn, Oregon. So each one of the grantees is going to help us sort of explore something different about the tools. And I know I haven't explained the tools yet, so I'll just say they're customizable. They're templates and DVDs and things that you can make work for the people living in your buildings. And so Farm Worker Housing is going to really pay attention to the kids. How do they learn? What does green mean to them? Because they're oftentimes the ones, especially sort of in Spanish-speaking immigrant farm worker communities, who are going to then teach their parents and sort of expect different behavior out of their parents. So we're really excited to see, what does resident engagement mean in terms of kids? And then self-help community services in New York, they're really looking at their senior population, but it's a very unique senior population. They've got, Russian speakers and Korean and like 8 different languages they're going to have to translate and figure out how do these tools work for seniors coming from other countries and other cultures. And then foundation communities, and by the way, this used to be a parking lot. I love this development. Supportive housing, they're going to really figure out in their population what does resident engagement mean. And then Aon in Minneapolis is going to go at it slightly differently, and they're going to have these listening sessions and sort of really actively listen to people living here at Wellstone, which is a gateway. There's actually, Aon now has 4 properties at this major intersection in downtown Minneapolis. And so they're going to listen and figure out what green living and green behavior means to their population. So we're really excited. We launched this on Earth Day, and they're on the hook to tell us how they're measuring this, because that's something we were missing. Metrics around measuring what does resident engagement behavior get you? What does it mean? How are their lives improved? What does it do for the environment? What does it do for the operating expenses in the building? So next year on Earth Day, we'll be sharing those results, and throughout the year, we'll be sharing videos on our website and some of the learnings as they're ready. So these are the tools. We have what we call training in a box, which is it's really sort of a PowerPoint presentation that's adaptable and has notes, and we have a whole collection of illustrations that you can pick and choose from. And you can see here there's PowerPoint slides, there's exercises, and then we have resident engagement cards that I'll walk through too. And we actually have short videos that explain what each of these topic areas are, and then additional slides that can be sort of customized. So we really just look at these 4 major categories: energy conservation, water, healthy living, and waste and recycling for these 2 tools. And what we're missing that's going to be coming out within the next month is a training in a box for the property owners. So this is a training in the box for residents. And interrupt me at any time if this makes no sense. So this is just, sort of how it looks, right? It's just a PowerPoint that can be adapted for whatever you want it to. These are the topics that it covers. As I said, these great icons that a designer created for us can become T-shirts or wall hangings or stickers. And so the content is PowerPoint slides, it's exercises, it's discussion points, videos. And this PowerPoint will be available, so you'll get to see it. I don't think I need to tell you what it says, but it comes with trainer notes. So what we're expecting is that enterprise staff, I showed you our small little team, we can't be everywhere. You all can't be everywhere. So it's about really how do we give absolutely everything that anybody could need to deliver this type of training themselves. So a resident could deliver it. A resident service provider could deliver it. Are you going to deliver it, Linda? Hip, green champions, executive directors can deliver it. So this is an example of the trainer notes that you would have ahead of time that really thoroughly walk you through how to have a 30-minute session around energy efficiency. And this summarizes the workshop, tells you what you need, and really covers just about everything. It has the agenda for the meeting. And then again, we decided to go with PowerPoint because it's somewhat visual. And then you have all the note fields that you can fill in. Again, just sort of walking you through what it, and then it tells you what could be customized for your location and your population. So there's these quizzes, and again the notes, and it just I think it walks you through it item by item. So we're going to sample one of the quizzes. Wasn't kidding. Bodie's got them. So it's up to you at your tables how you want to do it. This table here finished so fast and furiously. They may have. What was your answer for shower time less than 5 minutes? How many gallons would this save you?
Well, based on our shower habits, about 200 minutes.
Oh, for the whole table.
No, for certain of us. You have to be named. They're morning in the shower.
Wow. All right.
So what's the number?
So it was 20.
Yeah, we got that. You are
All right, this group right here. Well, there actually is information in here that really gets into the baseline and sort of, some of the nitty-gritty, but we're not going to do that. Just play with me here. This is fun. Turn off water when brushing teeth. How many gallons? 4. Yeah, so 6 is what we're going with. Use a low-flow shower head. How many gallons are you going to save? This is based on, sort of an average American's water use. How about this table here? Using a low-flow shower head. 10. It's actually 16. Turning water off for 2 minutes when shaving, Dennis. What did that table say?
Well, we calculated that it would take you 2 minutes to shave the bathroom faucet, and at a flow rate of, depending on the flow rate of the faucet, anywhere around 2.25 to 3 gallons per minute. So the correct answer, Dana, is...
Did you say 4?
4.
Yeah, nice. Fill the bathroom sink to wash your face, Paul.
We had a lot of discussion about who's bathroom sink. But we thought that would be a relatively low number. We said 4.
Yeah, 1, so it must have been that other person's sink. Turn off water when washing dishes. We had a lot of talk about this yesterday. Who wants to venture a guess here? How many gallons? How about in the back? How many?
Family of 4.
It is. No, it's actually an individual. 15. 15, you're right. Right on. Nice. And report leaking toilet, and the repair actually happens. How many gallons did you just save yourself?
Oh, wait.
20.
20.
Well, it's much more. By the time people report, then it gets
Is it union? So 10. Yeah, 10. So anyway, it does, as a facilitator, it does arm you with a lot more detail so that you can field these hard questions I'm getting about what type of user, what type of sink, what type of house, what type of labor. So it would, it really helps then facilitate a great discussion, right? So you could say, well, let's add up that column, how many gallons of water would you have saved? 72. What action steps are you willing to take? That's on the sheet. You could fill that out. And then there's other sheets of sort of discussion things too that allow each of the participants to actually commit to doing a few things and adding up the gallons of water that they save and giving themselves points for what they say they will do. So anyway, you get I think you get the picture here. It's a training in a box with all the tools you could possibly need. And why I say I think this is the most contagious work we've done is that our staff can actually take this home and do this with their kids. It doesn't have to be limited to resident service providers and property managers. We can use this in our life. Some of you sound like you need to. So then the other tool that we've created are these resident engagement cards and they too are highly customizable. They're meant to sort of teach residents about choices they can make, allows for customization, offers flexibility in how they're used. And again, it's sort of based on PowerPoint, which we did some early work to figure out that was something most nonprofits had access to, so that these could be customized using PowerPoint. And then we provided, again, sort of some photos and some images that could be downloaded and used. And the cards, again, have information within PowerPoint around what they mean and the information contained in the cards. And so the categories of these resident engagement cards are the green maintenance and cleaning, energy conservation, water conservation, waste and recycling, integrated pest management, healthy living, and these are some of the sort of subjects that they cover and how many cards there are, just to give you a sense of the volume of information. And again, these are just highly customizable. And it tells you, too, where to customize them and what type of information you'll need first to go get and then to enter into the PowerPoint to make it really unique for that population, for that location, and that culture. So, you have the customized tool and tips. You have these mascots that seem to be really resonating with people. The green heroes. And then you have sort of customize it by the location and some of the resident-specific information. And again, these are the image library that I was talking about, a sort of tip sheet. How do you actually do this? There's video tutorials that can really walk you through it depending on how much assistance you need. And Link and a few others have actually piloted these for us in the early phase before we awarded the grants to the 6 groups that I talked about in the beginning, and really made it their own and had a lot of fun with it. So you can see they tailored it to their location and what they felt their residents were most keen to learn about. So they're just, they're meant to be fun. These can live on the wall. They can be placed in high traffic areas. They can be given to every resident. You can sort of decide how you want to use them. And they're all available online. So even without a grant, you can use them. You can use them at home. You can use them however you want. But we do ask, actually, that you let us know if you are using them, if they worked, if you've improved them, share that with us so that we can tell others how you use them. And we do, every month, we actually have, some of you mentioned a $25,000 grant. We actually don't do those anymore, or as often. We have $5,000 grants that we award on a monthly basis to really still help with some of the integrative design work. And then we have a $5,000 grant specifically for this, to really think about how to engage residents, how to think about pulling all that great knowledge that went into the design and construction of the building through to the property managers and the people that are actually living there. So we have the capacity to award about 10 of these grants every month, and right now we're probably only doing 5 or 6. So just to close the storytelling, this is the inside of our building. That's where we work. But for those of you who were here last year, Naomi and I were here together last year as well, and Bob Fox gave this great presentation in the evening about the work that he was doing, and Naomi and I could barely sit still. And as soon as we could, we invited him down to Columbia, and he actually spent the day with our Green Communities Department and our facilities management team, and we walked through the building and identified some of the things that we could do. And we didn't get great buy-in for the whole 8 stories of the building, but this is our space, this is our green space. We were able to make a few improvements, so thanks, Bob.
Who designed your building?
Well, I don't know who designed it. He didn't design our building. He designed the Rouse Company.
Oh, I think it was.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there was a designer. And the other thing that we're happy to share with you, too, is also contagious within Enterprise. We have been asked to give presentations to schools, high school students mostly, on Earth Day over the past year. And so we recently decided, actually Janice Hernandez, some of you who know her, decided to sort of make this more accessible for all of our staff. And so we created a PowerPoint and the talking points and gave a webinar for anybody who was interested. And this is Monica, who works out of our DC office, who's actually on the school board for DC, went to her kids' school on Earth Day and gave a presentation about green living and the work that she does. And so it's, like I said, I think talking about resident engagement and people then connects it in our daily lives. And I'll close with sharing my favorite item in my life right now, I think, was given to me by the head of our asset management department, Beth O'Leary. Her son created this, and here's a little note that she wrote on the back. It says, Dana, my son, Will, is part of Northfield Elementary Green School News Flash, a group that publicizes and encourages green aspects of their school. He made this in art, and after telling him about your work, I asked if he might want to give it to you. He agreed, and he signed it on the back. Hope you like it. And it says, hey, Dana, thanks for saving the world. So, we're having a lot of fun while we're saving the world, and what we're seeing within Enterprise, as we are able to talk about the impact on people, a greater uptake in our staff wanting to engage and figuring out things that they can do. And it's highly contagious across the company, I think. Naomi would agree with me to the person almost, people figuring out what this means in their life, whether they're processing contracts or they're underwriting some of our largest debt products. So it's amazing to see what really is happening, the transformation within our company, and I think across the affordable housing industry as well. So I hope you use these tools. Check them out. They're all on the website. And let us know if they're working and if you've made any improvements.
Thank you very much.